welcome back. Thanks for coming along. I'm Drew, and this is a reading from Joseph Priestley and his book Socrates and Jesus Compared. Today we'll do part 2, which is the sentiments of Socrates concerning the gods and their providence. A polytheist, an idolater as Socrates was, he had just and honorable sentiments concerning the divine power and providence, and of the obedience that men owe to the gods. And though his writings and ideas on these subjects are far short of what we find in the Psalms of David and the writings of the Hebrew prophets, they are much more rational and sublime than the opinions of the heathens in general, or those of the philosophers that followed him. We have seen that Socrates ascribed to a god the formation and government of the world, whereas, according to Hesiod, whose theology was no doubt that which was generally received by the Greeks, the world had been from eternity, and the origins of the gods was subsequent to it. Socrates points out in particular the wisdom and goodness of providence and the disposition of the different senses, and the several parts of the human body, as that of the eyes, the eyelashes, and eyelids, and in the structure of the teeth, which in the different animals are shaped and situated in the most convenient manner, the best adapted to their respective uses. He had no doubt the same opinion of the wisdom and goodness displayed in the structure and disposition of everything else in nature. He, moreover, believed that the gods know everything that is not only said or done, but that is even thought and intended, though ever so privately, being present in all places, so that whenever they think proper, they can give intimations to man of everything relating to them. The deity, he says, sees and hears all things, is everywhere present, and takes care of all things. And it makes this obvious in practical use of the doctrine. That is, if men believed it, they would abstain from all base actions, even in private, persuaded that nothing they did was unknown to the gods. The gods, he also thought, know everything that is future, though they conceal the knowledge of those things from men in general, so that, though a man built a house, he could not be certain that he should inhabit it, nor could a general be sure whether it would be proper for him to march his army, etc. Agreeably to this, it was his custom, in his prayer to the gods, to request that they would grant him what was good, without specifying what he wished for, since they best knew what was so. Like the heathens in general, he considered lightning as coming more immediately from the gods, as one mode of giving intimations to men. According to Socrates, it is the gods that have made the distinction between men and the inferior animals, having given them rational souls, so that they only know that there are gods and can worship them. There is no such principle and excellent quality, he said, in the brutes, and in consequence of this superiority, men are like gods with respect to other animals. Speaking of the goodness of the gods to man, he says, they supply us not only with necessaries, but with things that are adapted to give us pleasure. He mentions particularly as their gifts water and fire, the grateful and useful change of the seasons, and our various senses adapted to particular species of good. This, he says, shows their concern for us. Socrates considered all unwritten laws obligatory on man and society, the origin of which cannot be traced, as having the gods for their authors. Among these, he mentions, the universal maxim that the gods ought to be worshipped, that gratitude is due to the benefactors, that parents ought not to have sexual commerce with their children, and all other universally acknowledged principles of morality. In answer to the objection from our not seeing the gods, he mentions several things in nature, the existence and powers of which cannot be denied, which are invisible or inscrutable by us, as lightning, the wind, and the intellectual powers of man. Thus, says he, when we see the powers of gods, we must reverence them, though we do not see them. Nothing can exceed the respect that Socrates entertained for the authority and will of the gods whenever and in whatever manner it was made known. If, he says, the gods signify their will, we must no more depart from it and take other counsel than we should prefer the conduct of a blind man who did not know the road to that of one who saw it and knew it, always preferring the direction of the gods to that of men. Agreeably to this, when he was addressing his judges, he said that if they would acquit him on condition that he would discontinue his instructions to young persons, which he believed the gods had enjoined him, or suffer death, he would answer that he must obey God rather than man, and that if they should banish him to any other country, he should think it his duty to do there what he had done in Athens. Whatever the situation in which man is placed, there, he said, he should remain at any risk, even of life, dreading baseness more than anything else. So the gods having, as I believe, placed me where I have been, and ordered me to remain philosophizing and scrutinizing myself and others, I must not desert that station for fear of death or anything else. When Aristodemus, with whom he was discoursing on this subject, said that he did not deny there were gods, but he thought they were too great to stand in need of his worship, Socrates replied that the greater they were, the more they were to be honored. As to the manner in which the gods were to be honored, he, like other heathens, thought it was to be determined by the laws of every particular country. But he justly thought that the satisfaction the gods received from those marks of respect did not depend upon the costliness of the sacrifice. The offering of a poor man, he said, is acceptable to the gods as the more expensive ones of the rich. Interesting, huh? You see elements of this in Christianity. And I've made this point before, that Christianity is built upon this Platonic tradition, right? At least the philosophy. So that's it. That's part 2, or section 2 of Joseph Priestley's book, Socrates and Jesus Compared. See you next time. Thanks for coming, and rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.